Neil, before we talk about the match tomorrow, should we give a mention to Dr. Tom Pritchard, who obviously works in your academy, but has hit the headlines in a big way over the weekend, hasn't he? I'm sure you're all very proud of him, and not just what he did at the weekend, but what he does on a regular basis.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it was amazing, and I think it just typified everything about it. When we all get uptight about football, but when it comes to life or death,
recording in progress.
Sorry. When it comes to that life or death thing, there's nothing more important, is there, than that? So it was great to see him, and big lad he is, and he knows exactly what he's doing. And obviously, the quicker you get to something like that, the better. And I'm glad to say that the patient is doing well now. So well done to Tom.
Well, he was quick off the mark in the stand. Hopefully you can be quick off the mark tomorrow night. You're going for 2 wins in a row for the first time this season. That would be great, wouldn't it?
It would, yes. I mean, we've not been able to do it yet, and I know how difficult it's going to be tomorrow. I think we've looked at the last 3 games of Barnsley's, and they could have won every game. They've been not had much luck, and they've been caught on the sucker punch. So I think every game in this league's very, very even, Stephen, and I don't think tomorrow will be any different.
Is everyone fit after Saturday? Has everyone come through unscathed?
Yeah, there's a couple of little niggles, but I don't expect, there's still a couple of the lads not training today yet, but I'm hoping that everything will be okay tomorrow. We've just got to look after people this week with 3 games in such a short space of time, really.
You have got Lee Peltier back, though, which must be good news for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Sol being the only defender was a bit strange, to say the least, really. So it's nice to have Lee available.
Are you in any way tempted, having had that good result, to leave it as it is, even though you do have Lee available?
I think you're always tempted, aren't you? I think when I have done it this year, we've lost next game anyhow. So I think I've just got to pick what I think's the best side. Quite simple with the players that we've got available.
You mentioned Barnsley have been unlucky of late, but 4 defeats in a row, and they're really struggling to score goals, and they've got injury trouble. Does it feel like quite a similar scenario to the one you faced against Peterborough at the weekend?
No, I think these will give us a lot more test as a back, lads. With the players that we've got missing, I think the way Barnsley play will have a lot more.
Recording stopped.
We'll have a lot more to do at the back than we did at the weekend. I don't think they had a shot really on target at the weekend. We defended ever so well, even though they had quite a bit of play. So we've got to hope that we can limit them to the long range distance shots and try and capitalise on our efforts.
They're having a very different season, aren't they, to last time around? I know they actually had a bit of a slow start last season, but I think the recovery had begun, hadn't it, by this stage?
Yeah, I think that you've just got to. From an opponent, you've just got to look at what they are at the moment and try and make sure that we're in the right frame of mind. They've got a good group of lads. They're genuine lads. They give everything. No doubt whatsoever on that. Like I said, they could have won quite a few more games, so they'll be disappointed and frustrated. But they'll be looking at our record and think this is a great game to start our run off. I can understand that.
I know a fair few fans were getting quite excited by some of what they saw from Martin Piero at the weekend. Does he, how's he feeling after that? Does he have the feeling that was his best performance in a Boro shirt?
I think the second half he did a lot better. I think Crooksy was talking to him constantly, and I think Crooksy probably got the best out of him. Really, it's just a different things in the Championship. It's a very quick and rapid thing. You've got to. I think when you play in the league, you realise what it's like really. And I thought he'd adapted second half very well. I think there's a lot more to come from him, but I was pleased with him.
And for Josh Coburn, yes, his second goal, but his first with anybody in the ground to watch and to celebrate with him. He must have enjoyed the last few days, has he?
Yeah, I was really pleased for him. I asked him if his mum and dad come, and he said, yeah, can you imagine how proud the parents were? And quite rightly so. He's a lovely lad and got a good future ahead of him. So it's he's going to be a good asset in the squad.
just last one. You mentioned before Saturday how important the crowd were going to be. Very similar situation, obviously. So I assume they'll be just as important tomorrow night.
Yeah, and they've been brilliant, really. I can't fault them at all. It's I think they know the situation that we're going through, and I thought they got right behind us, really, and kept us going to the end. I think they lifted the young lads when they come on, both Josh and Isaiah, and I thought he'd give them another lease of life. So well done to them. Yeah, let's hope they can do the same tomorrow.
When you've got so many players playing out of position and they get a result, that must give them an extra lift just winning the game if they've been playing in their normal positions, does it?
I think so. I think we all last week we talked about players having to do. Anybody can criticise, I think, but we've got forwards playing at wing backs and midfielders playing centre half, and Duncan playing midfield. We were all over the show in that respect, but all credit to them. Nobody complained at all. We just realised that's what you got to do, and I thought we definitely, thoroughly deserved the win. I think if we could have scored earlier, it might have, I think we might have had a few more, but we definitely deserved the win, and I don't think they had a shot on target, really, not that I can remember.
And Matt Crooks, I think he's played in, well, not every single position, but pretty much, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. I think he's one of them players. I looked at the press coverage at the weekend, and he was either a star man or he got a 5. I think he's the way he looks. He looks ungainly and gangly, and so I would imagine to some people he's not the answer. He's not the silky. You won't get the silkiness, but he very much a team player and a manager's player, and really pleased to have him.
And actually, probably somebody like him is ideal to have, talking to someone like Martin Piero and just guiding him and being there. He's an ideal character, isn't he, for that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, he took him to one side on Friday for a good 10 or 15 minutes when we'd finished training to talk to him about certain things. Anel helped him with the Spanish. Anel Hernandez, he helped, and Crooksy spent 10 or 15 minutes with him talking about different things, what were going to happen, and I thought that can only help, really.
So do you think he is starting to properly settle in now? Because it does take a while.
Well, as I said last week, I think his partner come over, he's got his dog to there as well. I think it's a different ballgame. When you've got your family and friends around you, you do work better. So I thought he was a little bit surprised at the sort of strength, the quickness of the first half, but I think he adapted very well in the second half. He didn't give the ball away, and he was very constructive. And everybody knows he's got ability, so it was a good second half for him.
So to get back-to-back wins, is it going to take a change in mindset, or is it just going to take perhaps a little bit of luck to kind of break that drought of being able to get back-to-back wins?
I think probably you need a bit of both. I think it's I don't think we've had much this year, really. We had a little bit of luck with the decision Saturday, but I didn't think we had much luck with decisions in the first half going for us. So I wasn't into that. But it's one of those things. I think you've got to make your own luck at times. I don't think we've got to wait for other people. I think the crowd are behind us, and I think we've got to get on that front foot and try and make things happen,
A two-part question, really, in a way. With the takeover at Newcastle, how rare is an owner like Steve Gibson becoming? Local lad, local businessman, roots in the community as the club's owner. How rare owners like him becoming?
Well, I think in the Premier League, where the money is so vast, it's almost going to be impossible for an individual to fund a club like that in the Premier League, the way things are going at the moment. But I think Middlesbrough, I think you look at the majority of fans, a bit like me, some people hate me, some people think Steve doesn't spend enough, and you get those fans, don't you? But overall, I think most fans are glad I'm here, and they're glad that Steve's running, owns the club, because he devotes his time and money to the club, and I think it's done brilliant for the area.
The second part to that question was, do you think there should be a change to the owners and directors test?
To be fair, I have enough on my plate managing the team, darling. I don't give a damn what else you're talking about, if I'm honest. That's for other people to talk about.
Just to clarify, Neil, none of the injured lads back at the back, all still out.
No.
And I know you were talking during the international break about attempts that didn't quite come through to potentially look at free agents and bring someone like that in. I mean, there's still rumours and names flying around. Is that something that's still on the table? Is talk's still ongoing with that, or is that completely shelved at the minute now?
No, I think it's shelved at the minute. I would have liked to have brought Robbie Brady in, if I'm honest. I think everybody knows that. And we did speak to him. He came up here and what have you, but unfortunately we couldn't get it over the line. So I see that he's signed for Bournemouth now, and lovely lad and a good player as well. So good luck to him.
Yeah. So at the minute it's make do with what you've got and keep your fingers crossed.
That's right, pal. Yeah, you're a dead right.
I mean, obviously at the minute you're having to shuffle the midfield around. Matt, as you say, played probably deeper than he would normally. Paddy and Johnny aren't in there at the minute. I mean, if you had a clean slate, do you kind of know what ideally you'd like the balance of your midfield to be? Because you've got a lot of players who can play in a lot of different positions in that midfield, really.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but at the moment, I wouldn't pick Dale Fry or Grant Hall instead of Sol Bamba. So, what can you say? Dale Fry is probably the best, if not one of the best in the league. But Sol Bamba's playing like a man possessed at the minute. So you can't really... I know what you're saying, if everybody's fit. Put it this way, I think if everybody were fit, we'd have a great chance of getting more points on board and getting up the table.
Yeah. And just one on Duncan, because I know, we've talked about the fact that you thought that there's been times at the start of the season when he probably wasn't quite where you wanted him in training, and it took him a little bit longer than to get up, but he looks now back to the player that he kind of was last season when he first came through the door. And he's had such a truncated career that this felt like a real big season for him, because he's hopefully going to be fit for the whole lot of it. Do you still feel like that for him? That this is a big chance, a big season for him?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he's we've got quite a few of them in the squad. He's a gem of a lad. He wasn't right at pre-season, and he struggled the first few weeks. But forwards, it's a lot easier for defenders to be consistent, because they've just got to stop people playing. When you've got to create things all the time from a striker's point of view, it's a lot more difficult. And he probably had tried too hard at times. That's how he is, Duncan. But he's now steadied down. He's doing a steady job. He helped me out in another area as well on last Saturday, and he'll do anything I ask him, really. So it's great to have him like that. But lads do have, especially forwards. I mean, Isaiah Jones was really being poor for 3 weeks in the training, and yet he looked well at the end of last week, and when he came on, I thought he did well. So it's nice to see Isaiah back on his firing on all cylinders.
And do you feel with Duncan that, it feels like he's been around forever, but he's actually still potentially got quite a lot of his career to come? Do you think we know where the ceiling is with him? Or do you think there's still, because he's had so many injuries to battle through, do you think it's still a bit of an unknown just how good he could actually be if he had that long run?
Only time will tell, Scott, really. I don't think he's had many long runs in the team,
No, that's it. I mean, anywhere.
I mean, I was told that his stats, he doesn't score goals by the stats. It's, Sunderland stats don't add up, but he was our top goal scorer last year, so that paid to that, didn't it, really? Yeah. I think stats are okay at certain things, but, when you see him on the training ground, when I saw him for them 4 or 5 weeks when he didn't get paid a penny, I just loved his attitude and the desire that he wants to do well, and money wasn't the driving force behind that. And then in the end, because of that, he ended up getting a better contract, January.
2 questions. Just on the Crooks, you knew you were an experienced, very good championship player who played a variety of roles. Did you know when you came in you were signing such a good character, someone who could be a mentor for teammates?
Yeah, I did, Ian, if I'm honest. Paul Warne, who was my lad at Rotherham, has kept me in touch, and he's always said, Gaffer, he's an absolutely gem of a lad. You'll love him. He played for them right back, centre half, centre midfield, right wing. He played up front. He played left wing. He said, and whenever I tell him, he just does the job, no complaining, and you know what you're going to get wherever he plays. And off the field, he's an absolute gem, and that's what he is. He's a super player to have around the club. You need people like that around him. You know, you look at people like him and Sol Bamba and Johnny Howson and Paddy McNair, and they're all good characters. So, yeah, delighted to have him, Ian.
Just another question, a more general one. I mean, no one can speak with more authority than yourself on promotion races and how they take shape. With 3 months of the season gone, is the championship table taking shape? Can you see the side, or there's some sides who you know are going to be challenging for automatic promotion? How far are you out of it yourselves for automatic? Is that something you give up on in October? And
yeah.
Are you behind schedule?
Well, I don't think we're behind schedule. Well, I think we're behind schedule on points because we should have had 6 or 7 more points easily, which showed where we would be in the league, really, and would be quite pleased to be up there. But I think you always think that you're the only problem is Sheffield United, probably, but they're catching up now. I think your Bournemouth have got the wage bill and the players. You know, I talked to Robbie Brady, but I couldn't get near what he got at Bournemouth. So, you know, it's always going to be the squads, the big squads, really. I think West Brom, Bournemouth. Who was the other promoter? Sorry?
Fulham.
Yeah, Fulham. They're all going to be the ones. I think everybody's going to be fighting for probably 2 positions in the playoffs. But whoever gets in those 2 positions, I quite fancy him, if I'm honest. So, you know, I think that's what everybody's got to aim for, really. We are short of players, if I'm honest, and I think Steve knows that as well. To have a sustained, we're going to need a bit of luck with injuries coming back and then having a good run free of injuries. Because I think when we've got a full squad, we're a match for anybody. But at the minute, we haven't got that depth that these top clubs have got, and it shows with the squad that with the team sheet.
Thank you very much. All the very best.
Cheers, Ian. Thank you, Ian. Right, Craig. Sorry, Craig. Carry on.
No problem. Morning, Neil. Just picking up on what you mentioned there about Robbie Brady, Neil. Was he the one you mentioned on Friday who you missed out on during the international break, was it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously you mentioned, it's looking unlikely with free agents now. I mean, there's just been a report this morning mentioning Neil Taylor's name. So is that something, that can be ruled out? Is it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah, so nothing on Neil Taylor, thanks. Just moving on, obviously we've mentioned a lot about Martin Pierre O'Neill and how he played Saturday and how he did with Crooks alongside him. Crooks showed another strength, if you like, as a more defensive midfielder when he's been playing as, a lot of the time as the more attacking midfielder. Could that be something, not necessarily on Wednesday, but, over the course of the season? Could Martin perhaps slot into that number 10 role with Crooks, behind him?
Possibly. I mean, I just think you've just got to look at I do like a positive player in that role. I like when I think Tav can do that job. Crooks is always, capable of doing that. I think Crooksy will score goals from that position as well. So there are 1 or 2. I think Hernandez has played it as well in there. We've got 1 or 2 options. It's looking at. I mean, Martin's only just started getting his feet, so I know everybody's desperate for him to do well. You can tell with the press, it's the one name being mentioned all the time. But he's still got so much. He knows what he needs to do, and he's just got to work hard. And he's trying his best at the minute, and hopefully that will he'll continue.
Yeah, and in terms of, we've mentioned how obviously on Saturday there were a lot of players playing out of position, but, to a man, everyone did, reasonably well. So despite the fact that they were out of position and people like Lee Peltier come back in, is the temptation just to leave it as it is, or is it a worry that, because they're out of position, that kind of, good form might not last with them being out of position?
I just want us to try and win the game, really. Whoever's playing in whatever position, I want us to try and enjoy it and create chances and give the crowd something to cheer about. And I thought the biggest problem on Saturday was the number of times we gave the ball away in the first half under very little pressure. I can't remember. I mean, I don't know whether it was you, Craig, or one of the reporters said about how I put my head in my hands when Martin Pierre made a bad pass or something, and so I'm obviously don't like Martin Pierre or something like that. But I put my head in my hands about 20 times with different people in the first half. Tav gave it away, Johnny, everybody gave it away at some stage in that first half, and that's what frustrated me. So I was a lot happier second half that, despite giving the ball away all that time, defensive lies, we hardly give them anything to feed off, really. So, I want us to try and enjoy it. We've got to work hard off the ball, and then on the ball we've got to, do that bit of magic. We've got some decent players, and I want us to try and be as exciting as we can on the ball.
Saturdays, we obviously put a little bit of distance between yourselves and Barnsley at the bottom, in the bottom three. Is it time that you start looking up towards the playoffs now rather than over your shoulder a bit?
Well, I always see my glasses always are full, me. But I suppose living up here, you get used to being half empty, don't you? In the northeast, but I always look upwards. Me, I'm just frustrated that we aren't 6 or 7 points quite easily that we should have been, because it just shows you where we'd be really. So even though we've got injury problems, we've still got a decent team. So I want us to try and enjoy it, Joe, if I can.
And I know obviously managers always say it's just one game at a time, but have you looked at this sort of run of fixtures that you've got and that you're currently in? It's all against teams sort of in and around that bottom six. Is there sort of a points total that you've told the lads that you need to get out of it?
Well, I don't think we've beaten many in the bottom six. Have we? We've lost to Hull last away game before. I think we've just got to look after ourselves really. We try and take. It's all down to scoring goals. You score goals and you'll give yourselves lifts and you win games. And we've got to take more of our chances that we get. We had some great chances at Hull and missed them all. And we had the opportunity the other day to get a couple in, and we did. So it's a fine line between success and failure in the Championship. And I don't worry about who we're playing and what position they're in. It's just you worry about yourselves more than anything else. That's all I worry about.
And obviously you mentioned scoring goals there. Josh came off the bench and scored on Saturday. Has he given himself a chance to not necessarily start tomorrow, but be involved a little bit more?
He's always in my thoughts, Joe. Josh is good enough to always be involved. He's just had so many problems this year, bless him. He not only struggled pre-season health-wise, then he had the COVID. He come back, he got an injury. Then he had the COVID, and then he didn't recover from the COVID. He had a little bit more, not the long term, but he wasn't like 2 weeks and back to normal. So it's been a hard slog for him. But he's been training the last 3-4 weeks with us. And he's improved. And as I said to him when I went onto the pitch after the game, he looks so much stronger now. And that's we're working with JT and Chris Short on his body as well, not just the football side. And he's a handful. Some of our big heavy lads try and intimidate him, but he doesn't bother him. I love that as a kid. 18-year-old, he'll give as much as he takes. So I like that in a striker. And I think, like I say, I think he's got a good future.